Hello and welcome to the Daily Scripture Podcast. My name is Jerome Lavelle, and I hope that you're having a great day today. Today we will be looking at the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, verses 14 through 23. Jesus summoned the crowd again and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. Nothing that enters from the outside can defile that person, but the things that come out from within are what defiled." When he got home away from the crowd, his disciples questioned him about the parable. He said to them, "Are even you likewise without understanding? Do you not realize that everything that goes into a person from outside cannot defile, since it enters not the heart, but the stomach, and passes out into the latrine?" Thus he declared all foods clean. But what comes out of the man, that is what defiles him. From within the man, from his heart, come evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly. All these evils come from within, and they defile. Today in the Gospel of Mark chapter 7, verses 14 through 23, we hear Jesus talking about defilement. But before reflecting on his words, let's talk briefly about that term. In the Old Testament, the term defilement is used in several contexts, including sexual, physical, ceremonial, ethical, and religious. In all of these contexts, the notion of defilement is something that is unclean or poison, something that makes something dirty or unacceptable or impure in God's eye. To defile is to soil, pollute, or contaminate. And when Jesus is talking today about those things going into the body from the outside, he is addressing the Mosaic prohibitions. Many are given in the book of Leviticus. For example, he's addressing those things that you can and cannot eat, those things that you can and cannot drink. And ultimately, when Jesus is speaking of these things from the outside, not defiling the body, he certainly was talking to the people, but he was also talking to the scribes and the Pharisees and their oversized emphasis and priority and scrupulous attention on these laws. That is what Jesus is also addressing. In this text, Jesus is, I would say, reprioritizing what's really important for the people to hear and for them to be focusing on those things of the heart, our behaviors, our attitudes toward each other. And this sounds like a fairly well-articulated point that Jesus is making. Easy to understand, clear, and concise. He says, nothing that enters from the outside can defile that person, but the things that come out from within are what defile. And yet we hear from Jesus that apparently his own disciples didn't seem to comprehend his message, so he explains his teaching in detail. And that has me thinking today about what Jesus said and what was heard by those that day. To me, the practicality was evident. Stop worrying about what you eat and drink, how you prepare things, what and how things are washed, and any of the hundreds of rules that the priest would have you follow to establish your holiness and your piety and your oneness with God in pleasing Him. Those things going into you being the emphasis. What Jesus is saying is rather focus on what comes out of you in words, actions, and behaviors. Today, we should reflect on Jesus' encouragement to focus more on the things coming out of us. However, this text has much more to offer to me, because like the disciples, it challenges me to seek understanding for things that I have heard but not comprehended. In Mark's gospel, the apostles were missing a pretty big message. And my guess was that adherence to the Mosaic laws was so accepted, so mainstream, so normed and evident that when they heard Jesus' message, they must have been thinking, no, we must have heard what Jesus was saying incorrectly. And so today, along with the message, I'm also thinking about ways and contexts and situations that I may be likewise trapped as the disciples were. And just as Jesus explained this teaching to his disciples, he will explain things to me and to us as well when we come to him with a heart open to hear and to understand. My prayer today is to do more of that in my life. Thank you for joining the Daily Scripture Podcast. My name is Jerome Lavelle. And remember, today our word is to hear and to understand. And that which comes out is what can defile us. Until next time, be well and be blessed.